This video is sponsored by Box, the online technology store. Visit box.co.uk for the best deals on TVs, soundbars, and all your other technology needs. Hello everyone, Inifinity from HDTV Test here. I've finished unboxing and setting up this Samsung Q950TS 8K QLED television. This is the 75-inch version. And let me just tell you that standing beside a TV that's so slim is just not good for my own self-esteem. Turns out that gaining weight in lockdown is a piece of cake. That's part of the reason why I'm also wearing a shirt with horizontal stripes. So if I appear a bit chubby on camera, I can blame the shirt, not the fact that I'm standing beside a TV that's so slim. But I'm going to go through the picture settings in the user menu to see what's new, because realistically, this Samsung Q950TS is the first 8K TV that I've received in my own test room for review. Previously, I've put my meter on other 8K TVs over the last year or so, but I've always had to visit the manufacturer's facilities and venues with their content to make my assessment. So I'm really excited to see what this 8K TV is capable of in my own facility. Let's summon the picture menu by pressing the settings button on the remote control, and then we'll go into picture mode. Standard would be the default picture mode out of the box. Dynamic would be the short mode, which is far too blue, and then natural, and then movie mode would be the most accurate picture preset. And I believe that if you use the Kalman calibration software, you can unlock two further picture presets, namely Cal Day and Cal Night mode, which yourself or maybe a professional calibrator can use to calibrate this TV for daytime and nighttime viewing. But let's go into movie mode, and then we shall explore the picture settings under the expert settings submenu. Brightness, in the old days, would be known as backlight. This will determine the light output from this television. So if you actually decrease the brightness, then it will lower the backlight and the picture will become darker as a whole. Whereas if you increase it, it will go brighter. So we'll just go back to the default value of 35, and then contrast would be adjusting the digital white level. If you drop it too low, then you'll just be losing dynamic range in terms of the picture unnecessarily. But if you go too high, maybe you'll be clipping some whiter than white detail. Again, I'll need to test this in my full comprehensive review. I'll go back to 45 for now. And then sharpness will be applying edge enhancement. Color will be boosting the colors in a global manner if you increase it. But if you decrease it, then you will be desaturating the picture, affecting all the colors. So we'll go to the default value of 25, and then tint will be rotating the colors in a global manner. By global, I mean all the colors will be affected. Apply picture settings will make sure that these adjustments will be applied across all sources, or you can select the picture settings adjustment or changes. Any adjustments you make will only be limited to the current source in which you are making the adjustments. So we'll leave it on all sources. Picture clarity settings, if we go into it, you'll see that this submenu contains all the motion related settings. I think prior to 2020, Samsung's motion settings have always come under the Auto Motion Plus banner. And I think that in 2020, they have removed Auto Motion Plus and then put all these motion settings under the picture clarity settings submenu. So you can see that under picture clarity, you can select between off, which will turn off all motion settings, auto, which will apply its own algorithm, and custom, where you can further customize the blur reduction and jitter reduction controls. Blur reduction will mainly affect high frame rate. By high frame rate, I mean 50 Hz or 60 Hz video signal to reduce motion blur, whereas jitter reduction will mainly affect low frame rate. By low frame rate, I mean 24 Hz, 25 Hz, or 30 Hz content to remove any judder in those content, but it is prone to introducing soap opera effect as well. LED clear motion is blackfield insertion or backlight scanning. If I engage it, then maybe you'll see some flicker on the camera because of the frame rate that I've set. But I think, in real life, the flicker may be less. I'll just turn it off just in case, I induce epilepsy in some of you. So hopefully that doesn't happen. And noise reduction, again, it falls under the picture clarity settings for 2020. This will apply a temporal noise reduction to try and suppress the digital noise that is contained within the picture, but it may reduce some fine detail as well. So maybe as a purist, you might want to actually just turn it off. We will leave it on auto for now. And then local dimming, this Samsung Q950TS is clearly the Korean brand's top tier LED LCD television, and so it will have full array local dimming, and I believe that the number of zones will be the highest among Samsung's QLED televisions. So you can select between low, standard, and high, and this will determine the local dimming algorithm. We'll leave it on standard for now, and I think in my full review I will be experimenting with these different local dimming settings for both SDR and HDR content. And also I will be counting the number of zones as well. Contrast enhancer, this will be applying an S-curve gamma. It is similar to dynamic contrast on previous televisions. So by S-curve gamma, what I mean is that the highlights will be compressed and the shadow detail will probably be crushed slightly to give the perception of a more contrasty image. But generally, any such manipulation of gamma or the transfer tone curve will be detrimental to the image accuracy, so I generally turn it off. So film mode is grayed out currently because I'm not sending any source signal to the TV, but if you send an interlaced video signal to this Samsung Q950TS, then film mode will become active. It will apply film mode deinterlacing. And then we go down to color tone. This is basically color temperature or a grayscale preset where you can go from warm to, which is generally the most accurate, to the D65 white point used commonly within the film and broadcast industry, or you can just go for warm one, standard, and cool, which will become progressively bluer in terms of the color temperature. We'll leave it on warm 2 for now. And then white balance will allow you to adjust or calibrate the grayscale. There are the 2-point controls and the 20-point controls. So we'll start with 2-point. Under the 2-point controls, there are the red gain, green gain, and blue gain, as well as red offset, green offset, and blue offset settings. Now the gain controls affect the brighter portion of the image. The offset controls affect the darker portion of the image. And if we get out from the 2-point white balance system, you can further calibrate 20-point in terms of the grayscale. So if you enable it, then you can adjust every single 5% video stimulus interval all the way up to 100%. And under each color, you can adjust the red, green, and blue balance to achieve a neutral gray closer to a D65 white point. So I think you can do this manually, but if you use the Kalman software, you can perform DDC or direct display control with this TV in terms of the interfacing, because this TV has the one connect box, and I believe that it should have the X-Link jack for using DDC with Kalman. And I think that Kalman, with the latest version and also maybe with a software update on this TV, may be allowing for auto calibration and also direct display control over IP, over network. So that might be more useful and more appealing to many people, including professional calibrators out there. If we go into gamma, this will determine how the input signal is being translated to the output on screen. BT1886 would be the default gamma for standard dynamic range or SDR content. And then for viewing in a brighter room, you can select 2.2 gamma, which is going to brighten the midtones and the shadow detail for a more watchable picture in a bright room, especially if there's a dark scene. And then if the TV receives an HDR10 signal, then it will be using the ST2084 tone curve. And if obviously it receives an HLG video signal, then it will default to the HLG transfer function. But we will stick to BT1886 for now. And even within BT1886, you can choose to either brighten or darken the gamma. Shadow detail, this used to be called brightness on previous Samsung sets. So this will affect near black gamma. You can either choose to brighten the shadow detail or darken the shadow detail. We'll leave it on 0 for now. RGB only mode would be used to adjust color decoding by turning off the red, green, and blue decoders on this television. But these days, I think most of the professional calibrators, they don't use filters anymore. They use their meters to calibrate these TVs in terms of the colors. And then color space settings will contain Samsung's color management system. If you change it to custom, auto is generally the most accurate setting for SDR or HDR, because what the TV will do is to adapt the color gamut according to the incoming info frame. And then native would just force the color gamut to the largest possible that this TV is capable of, essentially the native color space of the QLED backlight. And then custom, if we go into it, this will allow you to adjust the 3 primary colors of red, green, and blue, and the 3 secondary colors of yellow, cyan, and magenta. And under each color, you can further tune the RGB mix. So Samsung has always used an RGB based color management system, whereas some other manufacturers, they may be using the HSL system, allowing you to adjust hue, saturation, and luminance. But Samsung is unique that they have always stuck to the red, green, and blue system. And then reset picture. Besides that, I want to just go quickly into the general settings submenu, where we can explore the game mode a bit, because I think many people out there will be excited about Samsung TVs because they have HDMI 2.1 capabilities on HDMI port 4, and you can either engage game mode to achieve the lowest input lag, or you can set it to auto, which will enable auto low latency mode, or ALLM, which means that, let's say, if you use a console that is compatible with ALLM, such as the Xbox One X, then when you start playing a game on that console, this TV will kick automatically into game mode to achieve the lowest input lag. And then let's turn this on. And then dynamic backlight equalizer will be basically adjusting the near black gamma and maybe even extending to the midtones as well to make, say, shadow detail more visible. Let's say there's a really dark game and you want to see all your enemies, you can brighten the dynamic black equalizer, but generally it is going to cause the image to look a bit more washed out. So I think as a purist, I would always set it back to 0 to achieve the inkiest blacks and the most accurate tone curve tracking. And then if we go into Game Motion Plus, this is Samsung's way to apply some motion interpolation even in game mode without increasing input lag too much. So I think that on previous Samsung TVs, you can engage Game Motion Plus and the input lag will still come under 30 milliseconds. I think some people have found this useful for 30 frames per second games, but for me personally, because I'm very sensitive to all the interpolation artifacts that would be introduced by engaging motion interpolation. I generally don't use it, but certainly I think some of you have expressed an interest in using it, and it's good that Samsung offers this sort of facility without increasing input lag excessively. And then even in Game Motion Plus mode, you can adjust the blur reduction and jitter reduction independently of each other, and then you can also engage LED clear motion, which will again activate the backlight scanning or blackface insertion. Input signal plus is also quite important to, say, activate HDMI 2.0b or even HDMI 2.1 on HDMI port 4, but the TV generally will take care of it itself. They will activate it if they detect a signal that requires this higher bandwidth. And then HDMI black level is grayed out between auto, low, and high. So low will be targeting the video level 16:235 on an 8-bit domain, whereas high will be targeting 0 to 255 for use with a PC. I believe that concludes my walkthrough of the Samsung Q950TS in terms of the picture settings. I'm going to spend the next few weeks testing and reviewing this TV, watching some content. So if there's anything in particular that you want us to test, or if you have any questions about this TV, feel free to leave a comment in the YouTube section below. If you found this video useful, please click the like button and subscribe to the HDTV Test YouTube channel for more videos like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.